Welcome to the IVF Journey with Dr. Michael Chapman, the podcast for couples who struggle with infertility and want to fulfill their dreams of becoming parents. In this podcast, you'll learn actionable strategies to deal with infertility from Dr. Michael Chapman, or Prof as he's affectionately known. Prof is the co-founder of IVF Australia and is a leading Australian infertility specialist who has helped over 3,000 couples realise their dreams of becoming parents. To access previous episodes packed with ideas, solutions and tips that actually work, head over to Dr. Chapman's IVF podcast on iTunes. You can also ask questions by contacting Dr. Chapman's rooms on 1-800-111-483 or by emailing him michael.chapman@ivf.com.au.
That first cry of a baby born after the long journey of IVF remains one of the most beautiful experiences in the world. As an obstetrician and an IVF specialist, I've had the privilege of experiencing this over many thousands of times in my long career, but I still remain moved by each baby's first cry. It signifies the end of a long journey and the beginning of a new life. This is Professor Michael Chapman, co-founder of IVF Australia and host of the IVF Journey podcast. Thanks for tuning in. To access all the previous episodes, head over to my website, www.theivfjourney.com, and select IVF Journey Podcast from the navigation menu. You'll also be able to find the various services that we provide at IVF Australia. Today we're going to talk about what is increasingly the most common diagnosis or lack of diagnosis that's made when couples approach me saying that they're unable to conceive. That diagnosis is unexplained infertility. It's a frustrating term in that what we're saying is we don't know why it is that you haven't conceived. To properly reach this diagnosis, we have to rule out all the various aspects that may contribute to infertility. So we can only really make this diagnosis after proper investigation. So as we've talked in other podcasts, the basic investigations aimed at checking whether the sperm quality is normal, checking that making an egg is occurring, ovulation is occurring, and checking that the fallopian tubes and the pelvis are normal to allow the sperm and the egg to get together. Those basic investigations, if they are negative, i.e. there is no obvious cause for the infertility, allows us to put the label unexplained on this clinical situation. When I say this to patients, they are both pleased on one hand in the sense that there's nothing nasty going on, nothing that needs operating on, nothing that needs treatment. But on the other hand, after trying to get pregnant for long periods of time and not having a hook on which to hang the problem, can be very frustrating, extremely frustrating. We can proceed to further investigations, looking at immunological, subtle biochemical or subtle structural issues. But it's rare that we ever turn anything up in these situations. Now, the main contributor to unexplained infertility is in fact bad luck. The chances of conceiving in one cycle are in the order of 15% in a woman who is under the age of 35, whose partner's sperm is normal and whose tubes are patent, open. 15% on a recurring basis by 12 months gives a 90% chance of a conception occurring in that scenario. By 6 months, it was only 50 to 60%. So as that 1 in 6, that 15%, that roll of the dice continues, you can still miss out purely by chance. If you think about it, 15% is 1 in 6. 1 in 6 is the equivalent of throwing a dice and getting the 6. How many times have we played board games and rolled the dice and not got the 6? It's the same odds. And so there will be a group of patients where there is no cause for the infertility, but after 12 months they won't have conceived, purely on a chance basis. This is further confirmed statistically by studies that have followed that group of patients for a further 12 months. And over half of those patients will conceive naturally without any help from IVF specialists like myself. Indeed, when we move to hormonal treatment or more invasive IVF treatments, one has to be cautious that nature may not have cured the problem over a period of time, that we're going to spend a lot of heartache, money and stress, perhaps unnecessarily. So in some countries, certainly in the public system, in some countries, they won't embark on treatment for unexplained infertility for 2 years. The management, when one does decide to move on to treatment for unexplained infertility, can be as minimal as pushing ovulation a bit more, for instance, using clomiphene or letrozole. There is no scientific evidence that either of these improve the chances of conceiving with unexplained infertility, but I certainly feel that patients are comforted by taking something to help them conceive. Moving up from that, the next option that is available is intrauterine insemination, IUI. In this treatment, the woman can do nothing other than watch ovulation occur, and on the day of ovulation, we prepare sperm, separate out a small volume of the very best swimmers, and insert them inside the uterus, a bit like having a pap smear. This is a non-invasive approach, but when there is no stimulation of the ovaries, the success rates with IUI are not much better than natural conception. In fact, there's debate as to whether they're any better than natural conception. Ovulation can be stimulated, however, in conjunction with the intrauterine insemination, either by tablets, clomiphene, or by taking a course of low-dose FSH. The FSH stimulates multiple egg production, usually 1 or 2 or 3, and has the highest chance of success in the IUI arena, with rates of around 20% per cycle, i.e. better than nature, at least for the first few cycles of treatment. The risks with this latter approach, however, are multiple pregnancies. Indeed, most of the high multiples, like quads and above, that are reported from fertility clinics are from ovulation induction with FSH and either timed intercourse or IUI. It is therefore vital that monitoring of the cycle by experts occurs, and that couples are warned in advance that they may have to abstain from intercourse if there are multiple follicle development. If IUI is not successful, or the couple wish to move more rapidly to an increased chance of success, then a decision may be made to move to IVF. IVF has a pregnancy rate in women under 38 of greater than 30% per cycle, reaching over 40% in some clinics, with a single embryo transfer. This minimises the risks of multiple pregnancy and obviously carries a higher success rate, but IVF is more invasive and more expensive. So, just to summarise, Unexplained infertility is a frustrating diagnosis for many patients and clinicians. We really do want to know why you're not getting pregnant. On a positive note, unexplained infertility means there's nothing nasty going on and nothing that requires any interventions. Patience probably is the best cure of unexplained infertility. But by the time couples come to see me, that patience has waned and they generally want something done. And I must say, my first approach generally is to go to intrauterine insemination, and rarely do I go straight to IVF. I think that's an over-treatment of a condition that has a high chance of success with lesser technology. And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey Podcast from the navigation menu.
Thank you for listening to the IVF Journey with Dr. Michael Chapman, the podcast which helps couples negotiate their way through the IVF journey, all the way to parenthood. You can also ask questions by contacting Dr. Chapman's rooms on 1-800-111-483 or by emailing him michael.chapman@ivf.com.au.